Hey guys, in this video, I want to give you some tips for naturally reducing pain, fever, and inflammation. When your body is under attack by viruses, pathogens, or various toxins, one of the natural responses of the body is to increase the body temperature, giving you a fever in other words, which can help to create an environment in which pathogens and viruses cannot thrive. And in the case of exposure to toxins, the immune system can produce immune cells which send out chemicals that attempt to destroy or get rid of the various toxic substances and foreign invaders in the body. So a fever is not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a natural mechanism of the body in an attempt to kill off any sort of pathogen or virus in the body. However, both the increased body temperature to the point of fever and even the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines in an attempt to rid the body of pathogens and toxic substances are both damaging to the body overall. So although these mechanisms are helpful for destroying the bacteria and toxins in the body, at the same time, they are known to cause damage to the body's own cells and tissues. Which is why when you experience something like a fever or you experience an inflammatory reaction, you yourself also experience pain. But again, due to both the destructive effects and the painful effects of a fever and chronic inflammation, most people attempt to reduce their fever and bring down the inflammatory response to avoid the pain and potential tissue and cellular destruction. And this isn't necessarily a bad idea because again, these things can be destructive to the body. On one hand, a fever and inflammation are helping the body to cope and survive, but on the other hand, it is destructive and there are more effective and less destructive ways to help your body fight off pathogens, viruses, and toxins. So before we talk about how to increase your body's natural defenses in a way that's less destructive than, let's say, the development of a fever and pro-inflammatory cytokines, let's quickly discuss how it is exactly that the body produces a fever and inflammation. So in 1982, a Nobel Prize winning physiologist by the name of John R. Vane discovered the prostaglandin. Now, prostaglandins are derived of fatty acids from the cell membrane, particularly fatty acids like arachidonic acid, which is an unsaturated fatty acid that you will find in things like fish oil and the polyunsaturated oils that we talk about frequently on the channel. And these fatty acids, like arachidonic acid, actually catalyze with an enzyme known as cyclooxygenase 2 and produces the inflammatory prostaglandins. And it's actually these hormone-like chemicals, prostaglandins, that increase the body temperature to the point of the fever by acting on or stimulating the hypothalamus. So the prostaglandins, in other words, stimulate your hypothalamus and tell it to crank up your body temperature to the point where pathogens and viruses cannot live and ultimately die off. And in addition to evoking a fever response, the prostaglandins also stimulate the immune system to produce pro-inflammatory cytokines, which again can kill off bacteria and pathogens or harmful invaders. But the pro-inflammatory cytokines, as we talk about often in these videos, also contribute to tissue damage as well and are implicated in the development of fibrotic tissue and things like scalp fibrosis. Now, around the same time that John R. Vane discovered the role of prostaglandins in inflammation, fever, and pain, he also discovered ways to inhibit the production of these pro-inflammatory prostaglandins and therefore reduce pain, fever, and inflammation. And he is one of the founding fathers of aspirin, which is just the technical name for acetylsalicylic acid. And salicylic acid is a compound that you find naturally in the willow leaf from the willow tree. It's also found in the bark of the willow tree, which is an herb that we as humans have been using for over 250,000 years. However, most producers of aspirin do not sell pure acetylsalicylic acid or salicylic acid. They're providing a pill or a capsule that is coated with magnesium stearate. It has titanium dioxide, cornstarch, and other fillers that make it less healthy than it should be if you're just to take the pure form of it. Regardless, salicylic acid or aspirin or white willow bark all have powerful anti-inflammatory, anti-fever, and pain-reducing effects by actually inhibiting the production of prostaglandins. So looking back, a prostaglandin is produced by taking arachidonic acid that acts with an enzyme known as phospholipase A2, which catalyzes with the enzyme cyclooxygenase 2. So it's the combination or the enzymatic catalyzation or synthesization of these enzymes and fatty acids that produce the prostaglandin. And the way that salicylic acid works, or aspirin or white willow bark, is by inhibiting the production of cyclooxygenase 2. That way the prostaglandin can never be synthesized in the first place. And this is exactly how aspirin or white willow bark has its anti-inflammatory, pain-reducing, fever-reducing effects. Now the good news is that aspirin or even salicylic acid or white willow bark are not the only substances that can provide this anti-inflammatory effect or this specific COX-2 inhibiting effect. As I pointed out in videos in the past, articles like this have proven that nettle root extract has a powerful anti-inflammatory effect by inhibiting the production of the enzyme cyclooxygenase 2, preventing the production of the inflammatory prostaglandins that contribute to fever and the production of inflammatory cytokines. So considering the roles of prostaglandins in the development of fever, inflammation, and pain, one of the most effective ways to reduce pain, fever, and inflammation is by inhibiting the production of the prostaglandins. So a couple of quick tips now on how to do that. The first is obviously going to be look into the use of white willow bark extract for its COX-2 inhibiting effects. In addition to that, you could use herbs like nettle root, which have powerful anti-inflammatory effects, the ability to inhibit COX-2 and inhibit the production of the inflammatory prostaglandins. Now, the other thing to remember is that aside from the production of cyclooxygenase 2, one of the most important building blocks of the prostaglandins are the unsaturated fatty acids like arachidonic acid, which, as I touched on briefly, is an unsaturated fatty acid that you will find in abundance in fatty fish. So a lot of the fish oil supplements, although they are promoted as anti-inflammatory, and they will have some effect in regards to inhibiting inflammation, they do provide a high amount of the fatty acids that are used to make the actual prostaglandins in the body. So one of the important things to do is actually to inhibit your intake of the polyunsaturated fatty acids, linoleic acid, arachidonic acid, aolic acid, which are the breakdown products of the prostaglandins. So by reducing your consumption of those building block fatty acids, you're going to prevent or decrease the production of the prostaglandins. So I think these two things combined, inhibiting cyclooxygenase 2 with the use of natural herbs like white willow bark and nettle root, and also decreasing your intake of the unsaturated fatty acids that are, again, breakdown products of the prostaglandins, you should be able to effectively inhibit or prevent inflammation, therefore reducing fever and pain. However, that does bring this video to a close. If you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're new here and want to see more videos like this. Otherwise, for learning more beyond this YouTube channel or for supplementing with the herbs I recommended throughout this video, be sure to check out our blog, online tonic herb shop, and our online wellness academy, all in the description box below.